Before we start diving into the story, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. It only takes a second, but it will help the channel grow. Thank you for your interest in our channel. It all started on a night when the rain hammered relentlessly against the windows and the neon glow of the city spilled across the slick pavement. I remember stepping into the trendy art cafe with Robert, hoping to escape the endless cycle of mundane routines. The air was thick with anticipation and a hint of mystery that seemed to electrify every whispered conversation around us. We sat at a small table tucked in the corner, our eyes scanning the room filled with eclectic art and curious strangers, each person a story waiting to unfold. Outside, the rhythmic patter of raindrops played a steady, mesmerizing beat, mirroring the restless pulse in my chest. Robert's eyes held a silent understanding, a desire to break free from the predictable, to taste something forbidden even if only for one night. In that moment, every heartbeat echoed the possibility of transformation, as if the storm outside could wash away our old selves. The cafe's warm lighting and soft jazz tunes created an ambiance that was both intimate and expansive. We ordered strong coffee and listened to the clinking of glasses, each sound a promise of secrets soon to be shared. The conversation between us was light at first, filled with casual observations about art, dreams, and the fleeting nature of time. Yet beneath our words lay an undercurrent of restlessness, a shared hunger for an experience that transcended the ordinary. As I glanced out the window, the neon lights flickered like distant memories calling me towards an unknown adventure. The subtle interplay of light and shadow on the rain-soaked streets invited me to imagine a life less confined by expectations, a life where every moment mattered. Meanwhile, Robert's quiet smile hinted at his own inner revolution, as if he too sensed that tonight would mark a turning point. Every element of that evening, the relentless rain, the luminous cityscape, the comforting hum of the cafe, felt charged with the promise of something new and dangerous. It was as if the night itself was conspiring to shake us from our complacency, to lead us down a path that would soon blur the lines between loyalty and desire. And in that charged silence, we unknowingly stood at the very edge of our lives, ready to step forward into the unknown. After that electric start in the cafe, the night quickly swept us into a realm of fresh desires and unexpected encounters. I found myself magnetically drawn to the corner of the room where David lingered, his calm gaze locked on a piece of abstract art that shimmered under the ambient lights. Unlike the predictable flow of our usual evenings, there was an undeniable tension in his eyes, a silent promise of experiences that defied the rules we had grown so accustomed to. I drifted over, the clamor of the cafe fading into a distant murmur behind the barrier of my thoughts. "What do you see in this chaos?" I asked, my tone laced with both curiosity and a hint of challenge. David's response was a slow, deliberate smile, as if he were weighing each word before letting it spill. "I see beauty in the broken," he said, his voice low yet resonant. In that brief exchange, every word felt loaded with meaning, a secret language of shared discontent and the thrill of venturing beyond comfort. Meanwhile, across the room, Robert's attention had been captured by Jessica. Her vibrant energy contrasted sharply with the muted elegance of the surroundings. Their eyes met in a charged moment, and without a word, the connection was unmistakable. Robert's smile, usually so reserved, had taken on an almost defiant glimmer, as if he were finally daring to step out of the shadows of routine. Jessica's laughter, light and spontaneous, punctuated the quiet background music, drawing him closer into a conversation that promised escape from everything familiar. The cafe, alive with eclectic tunes and whispered confidences, became a crucible of transformation. I watched as David's hand brushed against mine, a fleeting contact that set my skin aflame and shattered the last remnants of hesitation. The spark between us was more than just physical. It was the ignition of a long-suppressed longing to be seen, truly seen, beyond the confines of what had always been expected. Every minute that passed seemed to rewrite the rules of our relationships. I felt a surge of liberation as I exchanged more words with David, each sentence punctuating our mutual understanding that tonight was about rewriting our stories. The rhythm of the rain outside intensified, its cadence echoing our racing hearts and mirroring the unpredictability of this new chapter. As the evening deepened, the boundaries between us blurred further. The air was thick with the scent of possibility, the kind that makes you question what you thought you knew about yourself and the people you love. With every shared glance and whispered secret, our past identities dissolved, replaced by raw, untamed impulses that demanded to be embraced. In that charged moment, it was clear. This was not merely an escape from routine, but a leap into an unknown future. A future where every touch and every word had the potential to alter our lives irrevocably. The night had already begun to reveal its hidden layers, each one more tantalizing than the last, and neither of us could turn back. After the initial sparks of the evening had ignited into something dangerously exhilarating, the atmosphere shifted imperceptibly into a realm of quiet reckoning. I stood near a window in the art cafe, watching the city pulse under a cascade of neon and rain, while a cold realization began to seep into my veins. David's lingering touch still resonated on my skin, yet each caress carried the heavy scent of impending regret, a silent confirmation that our night was about to unravel in unexpected ways. Across the city, in a plush lounge high above the chaos of the streets, Robert and Jessica sat in a secluded corner where soft lamplight revealed more than just smiles. Their conversation, delicate and measured, was laced with unspoken desires that hovered dangerously close to betrayal. I recalled the way Robert's eyes had flickered when Jessica mentioned secrets of her own, his smile betraying a mix of excitement and sorrow. In that moment, it became clear. Our carefully constructed worlds were starting to crumble. I could feel it in the subtle tension that filled the spaces between our words. Every glance David offered was layered with a complexity that went far beyond mere attraction. It was as if he was daring me to abandon the familiar and embrace a new, uncharted identity. At the same time, I sensed a shadow behind his calm demeanor, a quiet acknowledgement that our newfound connection was already steeped in the kind of betrayal that might leave scars too deep to heal. Meanwhile, Robert's exchange with Jessica evolved from innocent flirtation into something charged with the promise of unbridled temptation. Her voice, soft and enticing, seemed to whisper of escapades that defied the constraints of our everyday lives. Their conversation, punctuated by fleeting moments of vulnerability, suggested that the certainty of our shared past was being challenged. The subtle shifts in their tone, the brief hesitations before laughter, all hinted at the first tremors of a rift that might forever alter our relationships. As I moved away from the warmth of the bar to a quieter corner of the cafe with David, the night's duality became painfully clear. The distant hum of the city and the relentless patter of rain were constant reminders that every choice we made was irrevocable. Our whispered confessions, the soft brush of hands in the shadows, and even the silent pauses that filled the air were all signals, a prelude to a betrayal that had been slowly fermenting all evening. Each small, seemingly insignificant detail built up like a mosaic of shattered loyalties. In that charged instant, as the world outside continued its relentless rhythm, I realized that the line between passion and betrayal was thinner than I had ever imagined. The first hints of treachery were no longer abstract fears but tangible realities that pressed against our hearts, promising a night that would forever alter the course of our lives. The night deepened as an almost palpable energy began to weave its way through every glance and whispered word. I found myself oscillating between the heady allure of David's magnetic presence and the heavy, unspoken burden of what was unfolding. Every step we took, every subtle shift in our expressions, was a reminder that nothing was as it once was, and the air itself felt charged with imminent change. As I left the intimacy of the quieter corner to meet David near a wall of abstract art, I couldn't shake the sensation that the city's pulse was syncing with the rapid beat of my own heart. With each step, the distance between what I desired and what I feared grew ever smaller. David's hand, warm and assertive as it brushed against mine, conveyed both promise and warning, a gesture that ignited sparks of passion while simultaneously kindling the fire of internal conflict. Meanwhile, across town, Robert and Jessica were entangled in their own delicate dance of forbidden intimacy. Their conversation had escalated from casual laughter to charged whispers that left no room for uncertainty, each sentence revealing hidden depths and unresolved cravings. I caught a glimpse of Robert's conflicted eyes in a fleeting moment when he looked away from Jessica's confident gaze, a silent confession of the turmoil he was grappling with. Inside me, the conflict intensified as memories of our shared past clashed with the raw, unfiltered hunger of this night. The smooth flow of conversation and the intensity of each touch blurred the boundaries between right and wrong, leaving me teetering on a razor's edge of guilt and exhilaration. David's quiet assurances mingled with my own hesitant excitement, transforming every second into a vivid confrontation between what I'd always known and what I was beginning to crave. The relentless sound of rain tapping against the window punctuated our internal battles, each drop a stark reminder of the inevitability of change. I tried to focus on David's confident, unwavering eyes, yet the echoes of my old life reverberated in the back of my mind, stirring emotions that were both comforting and unnervingly foreign. Our surroundings, once a haven of predictable routines, had become a crucible in which our deepest secrets and desires were being forged into something dangerously beautiful. Every moment now felt like a race against time, a desperate bid to seize an ephemeral chance at redefining ourselves even as the weight of past promises threatened to pull us back into the familiar. The tension was no longer a quiet undercurrent. It had transformed into an unstoppable force, propelling us further into the unknown and binding our fates with the intensity of an irreversible decision. As the night reached its fevered peak, the atmosphere shifted decisively from simmering tension to an almost palpable urgency. In a secluded corner of a dimly lit lounge, David and I found ourselves enveloped by a silence that was charged with meaning. The air felt thick, as if every molecule was waiting for a cue to ignite our hidden desires. With a trembling breath, I leaned in, my voice barely a whisper against the muted hum of distant conversation. "Do you feel it too?" I asked, my eyes searching his with an intensity that spoke of both longing and resignation. His gaze, steady and unflinching, conveyed an unspoken agreement, a confirmation that we were ready to embrace the inevitable change, regardless of the consequences. Meanwhile, far above the city in a quiet penthouse lounge, Robert and Jessica were entwined in a similar moment of reckoning. Amid the soft clink of glasses and the understated rhythm of ambient music, Robert's fingers traced tentative patterns along the rim of his glass. In a hushed moment away from prying eyes, he murmured to Jessica, "There's no turning back now." The declaration, simple yet profound, reverberated through the space, setting in motion a chain of events that would soon alter the course of our intertwined lives. Back in my own world, every beat of my heart echoed with the gravity of the decision we were about to make. David reached out, his hand enveloping mine in a silent pledge of shared destiny. There was a raw honesty in that touch, a promise that we would navigate the uncharted territory of our desires together, even if it meant severing the bonds of familiarity. In that instant, the idea of returning to a life defined by predictable routines and unfulfilled promises faded into oblivion. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming against the glass like a relentless reminder of nature's indifference to human choices. The neon lights blurred into streaks of color, as if mirroring the collision of our emotions, and every shadow in the room seemed to dance with the specter of irreversible change. The decisive proposal was not merely a question of physical intimacy, but a radical invitation to dismantle our past and embrace an uncertain future. In that charged moment, every hesitation evaporated, replaced by the clarity of a singular, irrevocable choice. The air between us vibrated with the gravity of our decision, a silent pact forged in the crucible of desire and defiance. As we committed to this new path, the night itself bore witness to our rebellion, a poignant testament to the fact that sometimes, in the face of overwhelming passion and the promise of renewal, the only way forward was to shatter the confines of what we once believed was unbreakable. The loft was a cavern of raw emotions, its vast industrial space echoing every whispered confession and fervent sigh. As soon as we stepped inside, the cold touch of exposed brick and steel clashed with the intense heat radiating from our forbidden connection. I could feel the weight of every stolen moment as David led me deeper into the dimly lit room where shadows danced against the peeling walls. The space wasn't just a setting, it was an active participant in our unraveling lives, absorbing our passion and our guilt in equal measure. In one corner of the loft, the low hum of the city below filtered in, a constant reminder of a world that was oblivious to the storm raging inside these walls. David's hand remained steady on my waist, his every touch sparking both desire and a tremor of trepidation. Our kisses, soft yet insistent, spoke of a defiance that went beyond mere physical attraction. They were declarations of a new identity forged in the heat of rebellion. Each caress, each whispered word, built upon the night's momentum, urging us forward into uncharted territory where every moment promised both liberation and a lingering sense of loss. Not far away, Robert and Jessica were caught in a similar vortex of temptation and regret. Their interactions, though equally passionate, were laced with an undeniable tension, a quiet, aching betrayal that seemed to pulse with every heartbeat. I caught glimpses of them in the reflective surfaces scattered around the loft, Robert's gaze, heavy with internal conflict, and Jessica's delicate yet determined smiles that betrayed both her longing and uncertainty. Their union was as much about reclaiming lost pieces of themselves as it was about defying the bonds that had once defined them. As the night deepened, the loft's raw industrial ambiance only amplified the duality of our situation. The high ceilings and open spaces turned our whispered confessions into resonant echoes that bounced off the cold walls, each reverberation a stark reminder of our irrevocable choices. The mingled scent of rain-soaked concrete and our shared desire filled the air, blurring the boundaries between right and wrong. Every glance exchanged between David and me, every tentative touch between Robert and Jessica, carried the unspoken admission that our lives were now tangled in a web of passion and betrayal. It was as if the loft itself was urging us on, a silent conspirator in our defiance of convention, pushing us further until our resolve melted into raw, unfiltered emotion. In that charged atmosphere, the distinction between pleasure and pain blurred, and every action became a step toward an unknown, irreversible future. Our hearts pounded with the duality of excitement and dread as we surrendered to the tempest of desire that promised to reshape our very beings. Yet even in our collective rush toward freedom, the ever-present shadow of betrayal loomed large, whispering that every act of passion carried a price, and that this night might forever alter the fabric of our souls. In the shadowed aftermath of our impulsive choices, the night seemed to hang suspended between regret and liberation. The loft's raw industrial confines had long ceased to be a sanctuary, transforming instead into a crucible where every stolen breath echoed the irreversible nature of our actions. I found myself alone for a fleeting moment, standing by a window that framed the city's restless skyline, each light a silent witness to the chaos we'd set in motion. The earlier passion had curdled into a stark awareness of what we had sacrificed in our pursuit of something dangerous and new. David's earlier intensity had given way to a somber reflection, and while his eyes still burned with a wild yearning, there was an undeniable sadness there, a silent acknowledgement that the path we had chosen left behind a trail of broken promises. I recalled the heat of his touch and the unspoken assurances that had once seemed to promise freedom from our mundane pasts. Now, that same touch felt laden with consequence, its warmth mingling with an undercurrent of despair. Every memory of that fervor was tainted by the stark reality that nothing could ever be reclaimed once crossed over the line of no return. Across town, the remnants of Robert and Jessica's clandestine union echoed in the quiet spaces of a once comforting penthouse. Robert's face, etched with lines of silent torment and tentative relief, revealed the true cost of surrendering to temptation. Jessica, whose vibrant laughter had once resonated like music in a dark room, now appeared lost amidst the ruins of a love that could never be neatly mended. Their separation was as palpable as the lingering scent of rain on cold concrete, a reminder that passion, when entangled with betrayal, leaves a mark too deep to ignore. In that long, reflective silence, the boundaries of our former lives began to crumble irreversibly. The vivid flashes of desire and intimacy collided with the cold logic of consequences, each heartbeat a resounding testament to a decision made in the fervor of the moment. I felt the weight of 1,000 unspoken questions pressing down on me. Was the taste of this newfound freedom worth the bitter aftertaste of lost trust? Could the fragments of our former selves ever be pieced back together, or had we shattered them beyond repair? As the first light of dawn crept into the room, it illuminated a reality we could no longer escape.